You are listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report, episode 131.2, our girls basketball scoreboard from Friday night's games in Blackford, Delaware, Grant, Howard, Madison, Tipton, and northern Hamilton counties, with an interview with Sheridan head coach Jaidlon Bradshaw and Saturday's picks with Tipton Tribune and Elwood call leader sports editor Michelle Garmon.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengels.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Whenever you've chosen to listen to the Central Indiana Sports Report, welcome each and every one. Today is December 28th, 2024. It's a Saturday, so it's another day for the Central Indiana Sports Report. I'm your host, Greg Mengelt, and I love Central Indiana basketball. Today, producer Susie and I are at headquarters in Jeffersonville, and we'll be headed back to stage 22 in Elwood today. This is the girls basketball scoreboard for Friday's results in Blackford, Delaware, Grant, Howard, Madison, Tipton, and northern Hamilton counties. We have an interview upcoming with Sheridan head coach Jaidlon Bradshaw, and Elwood call leader and Tipton Tribune sports editor Michelle Garmon will join me to make picks for all of Saturday's local girls basketball games. Next week is a little bit of a slower week, high school girls basketball wise, so I'll be taking a bit of a break. We will still have at least 2 or 3 segments every single day. Please go like, subscribe, or follow us on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or YouTube so you don't miss a single segment. Just search Central Indiana Sports Report. We have released Will Rutherford's 5 questions that need answers, our Colts talk with George Brimmer. Upcoming in the next couple of days, we will talk with Eric and Ryan Robinson about the college football playoffs and so much more, and growing every day. We start, as we always do, with our local scoreboard, followed by recaps of all of our local games from Friday, then predictions with Michelle Garmon. There were 4 first-round games at the Richmond Casey Plins Memorial Invitational on Friday. Alexandria beat Jacksonville 87-29 to improve to 14-0 on the year, and will play Charlestown on Saturday morning in the semifinal round at Richmond. Charlestown edged Ben Davis 42-37 just before the Tigers win. The other half of the bracket will feature Connorsville and the host Red Devils. Marion lost 60-44 to Connorsville and will face Purdue Poly Inglewood on Saturday. Host Sheridan won its 9th and 10th consecutive games, 68-46 over Seeger, before taking down Class 2A number 9 Eastern Hancock in the championship game 57-36. We will hear from Sheridan head coach Jaidlon Bradshaw coming up in our daily recap. Tri-Central went 0-2 with a 62-37 loss to Eastern Hancock, then a 60-47 loss to Seeger. Yorktown won a holiday tournament championship at Greenwood by beating Triton Central 62-44 in the opening round, and East Central 42-31 in the championship game. Kokomo went 1-1 at Northeastern on Friday and will play for 3rd place on Saturday. The Wildcats beat Wayne 63-52 in the first round, then fell 61-45 to Class 2A number 2 host Northeastern in the semifinal round. Tipton and Western both went 0-2 Friday at Carroll and will face off Saturday for 7th place. Tipton lost 64-18 to Northside Homeschool and 55-22 to the host Cougars. Western lost to University 63-38, then to Western Boone. Don't have a score on that one. Hamilton Heights finished 3rd at the holiday tournament at Waldron. The Huskies lost to Union County 52-19 in the opener, then won their 4th game of the season 61-48 over the host Mohawks. Anderson went 0-2 at the Whiteland tournament. The Indians were beaten 72-43 by Whiteland. then 65-57 by Tri-West. A little bit outside of our coverage area, but games of interest in the Hall of Fame Classic. Number 2, Hamilton Southeastern beat number 1 and reigning state champion Lawrence Central 52-50 on an Addison Van Hosen layup at the buzzer in the Hall of Fame Classic Championship. Earlier, Lawrence Central beat number 4 Homestead 66-42, and Hamilton Southeastern beat Class 2A number 1 South Knox 67-59. Homestead then beat South Knox 73-70 in the consolation game. At the North Central Classic, the host Panthers beat Decatur Central, and 3A number 3 Silver Creek beat Avon 68-62, and to set up a championship game between the Dragons and the Panthers on Saturday. Greenfield Central beat Evansville North 54-48 in overtime, and Lafayette Jeff 46-28 in the championship to win a tournament at Lebanon. Peru and Mechanicsville will play for the Miami County title after Peru beat Caston 44-33 and Mechanicsville beat North Miami 42-39. Wabash and Manchester will play for the Wabash County Championship. Wabash beat Northfield 54-46, and Manchester beat Southwood 45-35. The Miami County and Wabash County Championships will be played on Saturday. We start our daily recap at Richmond. Alexandria won the fourth of 4 quarterfinals, 87-29 over Jacksonville. The Tigers led 31-5 at the end of the first quarter and 64-12 at halftime. Alexandria is now 14-0. Jacqueline Hosier scored 31 of her 33 points in the first half. Lily Harp added 10 points, Trinity Ford 9, Kylan McFall 8, Riley Kellums and Brinley Humphreys scored 7 each, and Stella Griffin scored 6 for Alexandria. The Tigers will play Charlestown at 11:30 in the semifinal round. With a win, they would face either 9-4 Connorsville or 5-7 Richmond for the championship at 3:30. Jacksonville is now 5-7. They will play 5-8 Ben Davis at 11:30 in the consolation bracket. In another first round game, Connorsville beat Marion 60-44. Marion is now 5-8. Freshman Naomi Hahn had 22 points. Freshman Jaylee Townsend had 9, and freshman Jamie Hardwick scored 4 for Marion. The Giants will play Purdue Poly Inglewood at 10 a.m. on Saturday in the consolation bracket. Connorsville is 9-4. They've won 6 of their last 7. They will face Richmond at 10 a.m. in the semifinal round. At Sheridan, the Blackhawks beat Eastern Hancock 57-36 to win the holiday tournament. Sheridan is now 12-1 and has won 10 games in a row. In the championship game, senior Kinsey Garner had 24 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 block shots, and 2 steals. Cecilia Timmy and Max Smith scored 8 points apiece. Timmy also had 4 assists, 5 rebounds, and 3 steals. Eastern Hancock is now 12-2. Both of their losses have come in the last 10 days, first to LaPel and now to Sheridan. In the first round, Sheridan beat Seeger 68-44. Garner's finished with 25 points. The Blackhawks are off until Wednesday, January 8th. They are at 6-5 University. I spoke with Sheridan head coach Jaidlon Bradshaw after the Blackhawks championship day. Coach, 2 big wins today and a huge one, 57-36 over Eastern Hancock. How did your team get it done?
I mean, honestly, I think what we do defensively really led the way for us tonight. Kudos to Sadie Timmy and Brielle Garner for defending, Kinsey Cook from Eastern Hancock. They did a phenomenal job. Sadie Timmy was actually sick all night, puking, and came in and got it done. I don't know how she did it, but she was, her and Brielle Garner were outstanding for us with her. And I think everything we did fed off of that defensive intensity that they brought.
All right, Coach, I see on Twitter that Kinsey had 24 points. Tell me a little bit about her game and who else played well for you.
Yeah, she was just phenomenal. I mean, for 32 minutes, truly, I think she maybe sat out for a total of 3 minutes, and that was just only because I wanted to rotate her and get her a break here and there because we do ask her to do a lot. But truly phenomenal. She shot the ball well from outside, took advantage of some mismatch situations in the paint as well. And then we had, I mean, everybody that played just contributed in different ways. So, we had Max Smith and C. Timmy, both with 8 points, but then also, and did well in other, statistical categories as well. Like I said, Brielle Garner and Sadie Timmy played phenomenal defense. Nova Cross brought us a spark. And then Shelby Eaton also brought us a spark. So, it was just a super well-rounded, it truly took all 7, I guess, if that makes sense. It was super well-rounded win.
I know it's not a conference championship or a sectional championship, but anytime you win a championship in basketball, you got to celebrate, right?
Yeah, I mean, the girls are super excited. I'm really happy for them. This is just kind of the beginning of a stretch that we have here in January where we play a couple of tough teams. We have some great competition with University coming up, LaPel coming up. So we're just hoping that what we did tonight kind of bleeds into January, I guess, if you will, and that we can feed off of what we did tonight for the next month or so. Well, really 2 months, I guess, when you think about it, because that
Right,
gets you into the
yes.
postseason. Yeah.
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 Coach, 10 wins in a row. You got to be pretty happy about where your team is headed down the stretch here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super happy. The kids truly bring it every day. So they bring that intensity, they bring the effort to practice, and then it really translates into what we're able to do on the floor during game time. Even if it's just a shooting drill, it's a lot of communicating with each other and hustling and making game-like passes. And we try to emphasize those things as coaches, but it's truly a beautiful thing when the kids buy into that and they just do it, and it shows in game time for sure.
In the consolation game at Sheridan, Seeger beat Tri-Central 60-47. Tri-Central is now 6-8. It's the first time they've been 2 games under 500 this season. They are back in action Friday versus 7-5 sectional rival Daleville. Seeger is now 7-8. Yorktown won the championship at Greenwood. They beat East Central 42-31 in the championship game. They are now 8-5 on the season. Lily Sylvester scored 22 of the Tigers' 41 points in the win. She also had 10 rebounds and 5 steals. East Central drops to 7-6. Earlier in the day, Yorktown beat Triton Central 62-44. Yorktown is off until Saturday, January 4th, when they host 7-5 Jay County. Triton Central is 8-6. Yorktown snapped their 5-game winning streak, and then they beat Greenwood 69-50 later Friday to finish 3rd in the tournament. We expect to hear from Yorktown head coach Leanne Bargy about her team's championship on Monday's Week in Review. Kokomo went 1-1 at the holiday tournament at Northeastern. First, they beat Fort Wayne 63-52 to improve to 10-3 on the year. Senior Michaela Drake had 21 points. Mara Stroman had 11 points, 6 rebounds, 3 steals, 2 block shots, and an assist. Junior Eliana Stewart finished with 8 points, 7 rebounds, 4 steals, and 2 blocks. Freshman Jordan Brown had 7 points, and sophomore Bella Richards scored 6. Wayne fell to 9-5 with the loss. Daviana Jones had 22 points, 13 rebounds, and 4 assists for the Generals. In the semifinal round, Northeastern stayed unbeaten and beat Kokomo 61-45. Kokomo is now 10-4. That ends their 3-game winning streak. Drake had 22 points and 4 rebounds. Stroman 9 points. Richards and Reagan McLean had 10 rebounds each. The Wildcats will face Lafayette Central Catholic at 6 p.m. on Saturday for 3rd place at Northeastern. The Knights were led by Addison Kircher. She was 9 for 13 from the field for 24 points. And Ava Mikesell finished with 22 points. Cam Angie scored 3 points and had a game-high 14 rebounds. Northeastern beat Shelbyville 62-35 in the first round. They will face 8-6 Cathedral for the championship at 7:30 on Saturday. Our two local teams at Carroll, Tipton and Western, both went 0-2 and will face each other on Saturday for 7th place. Tipton lost 64-18 in the first round to Northside Homeschool from Indianapolis. Northside then lost 42-40 in the semifinal round to Lewis Cass. Carroll beat Tipton 55-22 in the consolation bracket. Carroll had lost 3 of their last 4 coming into the game, including a 50-27 loss in the first round to Lewis Cass. Tipton is off until Tuesday, January 7th at home against 4-7 Mississinawa. Also, University beat Western 53-36, and Western Boone beat Western. Still don't have a score on that one. Western is now 2-11, has lost 9 in a row. Ella Rowlings had a game high 16 points. Western will face 2-12 Tipton, which they beat 63-26 for their last win on November 16th. University is now 6-5. Taylor Say scored 15 points for the Trailblazers. Later that evening, they beat Heritage Christian 47-39 and will face Lewis Cass in Saturday's championship game at 2. At Waldron, Hamilton Heights went 1-1, losing 52-19 in the first round against Union County. Union County is now 9-4, and they lost 52-41 to Franklin County in the championship. In the consolation game, Hamilton Heights beat Waldron 61-58 in overtime. Hamilton Heights is off until Tuesday, January 7th, when they face 5-6 North Miami. Waldron is now 5-9. And at Whiteland, Anderson went 0-2. They lost 72-43 to Whiteland in the first round. Whiteland is 5-10 after outscoring Anderson 26-7 in the second quarter to pull away. Whiteland then lost 57-41 to Bloomington South in the championship. In the consolation game, Tri-West beat Anderson 65-57. Anderson is now 1-14. They play this coming Friday at 8-3 Pike. Hey, I know you know somebody who would like the Central Indiana Sports Report. Please tell them about it. We're growing pretty fast, but not fast enough for my liking, so it would be very helpful if you would please tell a friend. And the Central Indiana Sports Report Girls Basketball Player of the Day is Sheridan senior Kinsey Garner. She had 24 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 block shots, and 2 steals in the Blackhawks championship game win over Eastern Hancock on Friday. She also had a game-high 25 points in the semifinal win over Seeger. Please stay tuned for Michelle Garmon of the Elwood Call Leader and Tipton Tribune with her picks for Saturday's games.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengel.
I made things very tough on you yesterday, Michelle, and as a result, and thanks to Yorktown's win over Triton Central, the score is now 15-15 in the girls basketball competition. I outscored you 9-5 on Saturday, Michelle. I'm about to go over the results here.
Holiday break games, I think you're
They're
kind
crazy.
of they are, and they're
They're
crapshoots to kind of
They
predict.
really are. They are really, really tough to predict. Okay, Michelle got 5 right. I said Tipton would lose by 10 to Northside Homeschool. She said more. It was 46. Greg said University would beat Western by more than 16. Michelle said less. It was 15. Union County over Hamilton Heights by 9. Michelle said more. It was 33. I predicted Kokomo by 6 over Wayne. Michelle said more. It was 11. And I said Whiteland over Anderson by 14. You said more. It was 29. And here's how I got my 9 points. I said Alexandria by 35. You said under. It was 58 over Jacksonville. I picked Connorsville by Marion over Marion by 16. That's exactly what it was. But you said over. And of course, we go 16 and a half. When I say 16, I mean 16 and a half. So I get that one. I said Sheridan by 28 over Seeger. You said more than that. It was 22. I said Eastern Hancock by 31 over Tri-Central. You said more than that. It was 25. And I had Yorktown. You had Triton Central. Yorktown won by 18 and then won the tournament at Greenwood.
Yeah, great. It was that's a great. It was great for Yorktown.
Yep, and Sheridan.
And Sheridan. Yeah, really good. I watched a little bit of the. I didn't not the championship game. I thought about it on my phone, but I just didn't. I had a kind of headache and stuff. I wasn't feeling it. So, but I watched some of Sheridan's first game when they played Seeger, and they Jaidlon's just got that group's playing pretty well. Those kids know their role. Those girls know their roles so well.
And Alexandria won by 58. They, of course, have a big one today. But let's start for Saturday's games with the non-tournament games. There are only two. 4-7 Mississinawa goes to 8-5 Huntington North. I say Huntington North by 22.
More.
Muncie Central is 7-6 goes to 8-5 Park Tudor. I say Park Tudor by 11.
I know traditionally their girls program is not as good as their boys program, and Tipton actually played Park Tudor a few years ago, and I mean they just crushed them. I'll go under.
Okay. And now we get to the tournaments at Northeastern in the third place game. 9-3 Kokomo takes on 10-2 Central Catholic. Should be a really good one. I said Central Catholic by 3.
Um, this is tough for me only because this Central Catholic team has been hard to get a read on or a pulse on this year. And looking at their results,
Been playing very well of late.
yes, they have.
You want to go for 5 points and take Kokomo?
That is what I'm considering. I think for me, it's probably Central Catholic is usually kind of they go how their shooting goes. I mean, they can score some points inside if they have a decent big girl, but they are a lot of times so perimeter oriented. Yeah, I'll go for 5. I'll take Kokomo. So
Okay.
don't get him, Haley.
All right. Good luck to the Wildcats. By the way, if it's also Central Catholic by 2 or 1, you get that as well. So you'll get the 1 point. Okay, Richmond at the Richmond tournament. Alexandria is 14-0. They face 6-4 Charlestown in the semifinals. Of course, Charlestown is in the really good Mid-Southern Conference with Silver Creek and Corydon and Austin and all those teams that have won state championships lately. Very good program. I
Yes,
say
home of Miss Basketball
that's
and
right.
Tennessee star Abby Conklin.
That is correct. And they went to Final Fours back then as a small school. Yeah, very great program, coached by the great Scott Matthews as well. And I say Alexandria by 7.
Whew. Um, oh boy, and I know I've thought about this. I mean, I've thought about this kind of off and on all afternoon as soon as I found out who
Right.
had won. Because believe it or not, I think this is one of the toughest games to decide. I think I'm actually going to take Charlestown,
Wow.
and not that I don't think that the Tigers can't win. I think they can. Like I said, I just think Charlestown's played the better schedule so far, and I think that can be that's a good thing. When you play a good
Right.
schedule, you can trail early and not be overwhelmed. And I don't think anything Alexandria does will overwhelm them. And I know Alexandria's win today is impressive in the number of points they scored, but I also, but I'll go with Charlestown. Nothing against you, Mickey, but I always say sometimes a loss isn't a bad thing, especially if you learn from it.
All right. Picking the upset is Michelle Garmon. All right. To Richmond, to the same tournament. In the consolation bracket, 5-7 Marion takes on 9-3 Purdue Inglewood. And I have Purdue Inglewood by 13 points.
I think that Purdue Inglewood team's pretty good.
Yes, they are. Oldenburg Academy Tournament 12-1. Wapahani takes on 7-3 Cascade. Toughest game for Wapahani in a long time. That's the first round of the Oldenburg tournament. And by the way, all 4 of those teams in that tournament are good. It's going to be 2 very tough tests for Wapahani, but I say Wapahani by 5.
I'm gonna go Cascade. I'm gonna put us up for some 5-point things here, Greg.
Yeah, well, that's good. And I tell you what, there's a very good chance Wapahani could go 0-2 on Saturday and still be pretty good. So
Yeah. Oh yes.
that tournament is just packed. And of course, Cascade won their first state championship in any sport in softball in the spring. So the girls there are obviously good athletes, and I assume there are a couple of overlap on that. So, yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good pick. But I like Wapahani's chances. That's a very good team as well. All right, and then the last game is Northwestern versus Wheeler, which we picked yesterday. You said Northwestern would win by more than 10. I don't know why I accidentally put it on Fridays, but you want to stick with that?
Yeah, I'll stick with that.
All right. All right, Michelle, you when we first made contact tonight, you told me you were watching the Hall of Fame game between number 1 Lawrence Central, the defending state champions, and number 2 Hamilton Southeastern. That was a thriller. Tell us about that one.
Oh, it was, and there may not be another game that will come close to that. I mean, that game had the feel of a state championship game. It didn't have quite the crowd, which I do. I mean, I love having that stuff at Newcastle, but I do think not having it at a site sometimes of one of the teams that's in the tournament. And I know people would say, well, home court advantage, maybe. Tipton won it in 1985 by beating number 1 ranked Noblesville on Noblesville's home floor in the first game, and then Benton Central in the championship. So it can be done because they have to divide up like they do for sectionals, for
Yep,
even fan sections.
sure.
So, but anyway, it was a great game. Lawrence Central, they had not lost to an Indiana team in I think it was 30-some
Right.
2 years games.
2 years ago, yeah.
It was great. Hamilton Southeastern kind of jumped out. Lawrence Central came back, and then it was nip and tuck the whole way. Lawrence Central tied it late on a layup. I mean, they had a chance to go for 3 in the win or the tie, and Jane Calhoun Schott was doing the caller for the game, and I think it was Greg. She was with Greg Rakestraw, I think, and he asked her, "What do you go?" Because Lawrence Central had 4 players with 4 fouls. And he said, "Would you go for the win here, or do you go for the tie?" And Jane said, "I think you go for the first great shot you get."
That's right. It's usually the best way.
Yes, and that is what happened. And they got a layup, and it tied it. And and this is then McCluskey turned the ball over. The Miss Basketball candidate turned the ball over as on the inbounds against the pressure by Lawrence Central. But then Lawrence Central, they inbounded, a girl touched it in the backcourt, got away from her. I mean, touched it in the front court, got away from her, and then she picked it up in the backcourt, over and back. So this turnover happened, gave the ball back to Southeastern with 1.6 seconds left on a side out-of-bounds play. So in my tweet, when I said a slob, that means it's the sideline out-of-bounds play. Blob is on the baseline, which is under the basket. But anyway, a great play call, and then a tremendous execution. The inbounder had to throw a lob to the opposite block, because they said, how you see it more in boys than you do in girls, but they set that back screen for the girls to curl over to cut down to the opposite block, and so the inbounder had to make the pass over the defender. Perfect pass to the girl who came off the screen, caught it, knew she only had 1.6 seconds, but made sure she caught it cleanly, came down with it, and knew she had enough time to just go straight back up with it, which is what she did. and it went off the glass. And actually, I mean, I think she got the ball off of her hands with maybe slightly less than a second to go, and it went through the net to win the game for Hamilton Southeastern. Just an incredible play. Lawrence Central was number one. Chances are Hamilton Southeastern will be number one after the new poll comes out. You're talking about two teams that went into this game undefeated, and now Hamilton Southeastern has still undefeated. Lawrence Central has the one loss. I'll tell you what, Lawrence Central, they've got four really good players, and Lampley, who I believe is the coach's daughter, she's an outstanding player. She strong. She made some key baskets. She made a great left-handed floater in the lane, and then she turned around and made a tough shot. She had to go up with a fadeaway jump shot and was fouled and converted the three-point play late in the game. And then, of course, Hamilton Southeastern has McCluskey, who is Makowski, or I can never say that name right. Sorry. Her sister plays for Butler, but she is an Indiana basketball recruit. It's
Right.
probably the first.
Mikulski.
Yes, it's the first big time in recruit that Terry Morin's gotten straight from Indiana. I mean, she got Faith Wiseman last year, but McCluskey, she's ranked 35 overall in the nation, and as a recruit. So, she's pretty good. She can knock down threes, and she can release it quickly. They have a girl by the name of Stidham, who is also a terrific outside shooter. And then the player that really made the night and allowed, I think, Southeastern to pull out the win in the fourth quarter, because Lawrence North was so concerned with possibly Stidham, the outside shooting, and that was number 11, and now her name escapes me, Roberts or something like that. I would have to look at the roster. Isn't it terrible? I knew it. Now I can't. I had it in my mind before we were, all evening before this. I'm like, I'm going to remember this.
Write it down, Michelle.
Driving to the basket and making free throws. And she was a 53% free throw shooter. And I think she went like 4 for 5 or 5 for 6 from the line tonight, which was, all of her free throws were huge, because
obviously, yeah. Every point was huge in that one, Michelle.
Yes, it was. And I'm telling you what, like I said, it was one of the most thrilling basketball games I've seen, and it's going to go down as one of probably the best games in the year. And I don't know if that Indiana Sports whatever network, if they have, because they were showing a ton of games for free, and they're going to show 16 games tomorrow for free. They'll be at the Phil Cox tournament. They'll be at the Boys Hall of Fame. They're streaming them free. And I don't know if you can go back, if they keep the video to where you can rewatch it. It's worth the watch to rewatch the Southeastern Lawrence Central girls game.
Speaking of rewatching it, they are on opposite sides of the state, so we will likely see a repeat in the state finals.
Oh, we could, but it's going to be tough. I mean, Southeastern. I thought Southeastern was going to get out, but they're in that sectional with Noblesville and Carmel, and some just rivalries that can make it tough.
And they play Carmel next, but I don't think anyone can beat them except for Lawrence North or Lawrence Central. That's what I think.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have thought that either, but I'll tell you, I will give Noblesville credit, because Donna's a great coach, and they have Tipner.
Yes,
they do have Meredith Tipner, and it was the guard play last year that.
By the way, they've already beaten Noblesville. Not that they'll beat them again. I'm just saying they won at Noblesville, 49-45, and the sectional is at Noblesville as well. So, yeah, and they play Carmel on January 3rd. That's their next game. Lawrence Central, like you said, their last loss against an Indiana team was in the sectional to Warren Central 2 years ago. They swept Mercy Academy and Sacred Heart of Louisville on the same day by 20 and 21 points. So
I think Lawrence Central will definitely be back. I I just think that Hamilton Southeastern, because they'd beaten Noblesville in the regular season last year, and I think that sectional was played at Southeastern. So all I'm saying is they have, because it's just, those are some big games and conference game. I mean, teams they played in the conference. And not saying that Hamilton Southeastern can't get back. I just know that's. I think if they get out of that sectional, they'll be back. I think their biggest test will be that sectional, and then of course they still will have to face. I guess you can't forget about teams like Penn up there. In
Homestead.
Yes.
Yep. All right. Thanks, Michelle. We'll talk some boys basketball right now. And if you haven't done so already, please go over and listen to our boys basketball scoreboard and get Michelle's picks on Saturday's boys games as well. Thanks as always to Michelle Garmon. She is just the best. And to Sheridan head coach Jaidlon Bradshaw for joining the Central Indiana Sports Report. And thanks to you for listening. Again, please go like, subscribe, and follow, and tell a friend, and we will be forever grateful. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media. And I love Susie.